All right, gang. Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome back to the live trading room. As always, apologies for this time of the year. I know there's a lot of confusion as we have sometimes or daylight savings time happening some places in the world and not yet in other places in the world. So we always have this weird little week where the times are messed up. And again, not our fault, of course, but apologize for any confusion. But luckily, these things are recorded. That way, you can go back and watch them if you missed anything. Um, Busy day on the fundamental side of things. You can see a handful of news events coming out. It is the first day of a new month, which means it's also the first week of a new month, which means we have our non-farm payrolls coming out on Friday. Today we have our JOLTS job opening, one of the many fundamental events that are going to be coming out as a precursor to our non-farms on Friday. So get ready for one of those weeks. But let's hop right into the charts. I got a cool example to take a look at. It is going to be a potential head and shoulders pattern. It is also going to be an example of a Cypher pattern, which will be interesting because we just had a conversation yesterday in our private Q&A about a trader who was putting together, he was doing strategy development on a Cypher pattern, and we always talked about digging deep, and he was putting together new rules for kind of stops and whatnot to kind of maximize his returns. And this would be a good example to look at since we ran through a few yesterday. So I'm going to head over to this real quick, NinjaTrader, just so I can kind of draw this thing on easy. But our Cypher pattern looks like this. Let me just see. Enigma, boom. There we go. You can see swing high to swing low is going to be our initial X to A. Our first retracement right here in blue, I guess it's all in blue, is going to be our A to B. Our extension down, I'll get rid of these VS1 levels so you can actually see the little wick there, is going to be our B to C. And our C to D completion was right up here. So you can see the Cypher pattern did complete right above the $2 even handle. And you can see the risk reward is all the way up here beyond the X leg. And one of the things that we discussed is that the Cypher pattern has an inverse risk reward, which is why this trader was looking for alternative ways to exit. So we talked about a few ways. One of them, if I remember correctly, was the 113 Fibonacci extension. And another one was a 120 extension, which came right in this level, or 50% of the zone, right? If we take our zone here from our X leg to our D completion right there, if we take a Fibonacci retracement and find the midway part of the zone, looks like we did hit that midway part of the zone. And I bring this up just because I know we spoke about this yesterday, right? I think when many traders think about adding filters or whatnot, I'm not saying this trader was doing this trader was not, right? He knows the give and the take, but in general, when many traders think about adding filters, so things to your trading strategy that will make it better, whether it's eliminating losses, whether it's giving you more reward, whether it's giving you less risk, whatever it may be, they forget that it's both a give and a take. And by a give and a take, I mean this, right? They think that when you add something, you're only going to get 100% benefit from it and no kind of drawbacks. And you got to remember, whenever you add something, it's going to make a massive difference in your trading. Again, you look at an example like this, you go from an initial risk reward that looks something like this, right? A inverse risk reward here. I'll make this a different color so it's actually a little bit viewable. So 8, let's go green, right? You go from initial risk reward like this. Let's make this bad boy red. Something that looks like this. Very small risk. You can see you're minimizing it, and then that reward is going to stay the same, right? Which is a massive difference, right? This will have a massive impact on your trading. You're basically cutting your risk by what looks like a third. But something you also have to remember is that you are going to have situations like this where you eliminate potential wins. And again, this pattern hasn't won yet, but let's say this thing did come down to win. This is one where you would have been stopped out because you decided to make that risk so short. So you got to weigh the pros and the cons. From a quantitative perspective, it's pretty easy, right? You crunch the numbers and see what gives you the better results. I showed you guys, if I can bring it up again, I don't want to spend too much time on this again, but I know many of you guys that are watching on the live stream or in the live room didn't see it. But we talked about this chart right here of being kind of your profitable / unprofitable chart. And this is a mesh point between your risk reward and your win percentage. And whenever you do something, you make a sacrifice. So let's say you're right here in the middle. You have an average 1-to-1 risk reward and a 50% win percentage. That's what your baseline test of your system does. What typically happens is this. As you do things to increase your risk reward, right? So you move to the right here, 1-to-1 to 2-to-1. Typically, you're gonna decrease, your win percentage. Because again, whatever filter you added or whatever adjustments you made to either shoot for larger targets, you're not going to get as many wins. So instead of just a straight line to the right, it's more down to the right, right? But still profitable. You're still moving from kind of a break-even point to the green sector. Vice versa. You do things to increase your win percentage, right? Let's go from 50 to 66. Maybe that means decreasing your risk reward and you have a negative risk reward. So you go, instead of just straight up, you go up and a little bit to the left, but you're still in this green area. So you don't have to be afraid of making a filter and having it, sacrificing some of your wins or sacrificing some of your risk reward as long as the overall product is profitable. And that's an easy one to recognize because you'll have the numbers right in front of your face. The hard part to recognize is the emotional side of it. And we spoke about this yesterday. Everyone has a breaking point. You may not know it. You may think it's larger than what it is, but we all have a breaking point. And what I mean by a breaking point is there's a level where we become a psychological mess. So you may be okay winning 66% of the time. You may be okay winning, 50% of the time. But maybe as soon as we get to 45% of the time, boom, that's your breaking point. You just can't take it and you start making mistakes. Or maybe it's, hey, you can't deal with trades that should have been winners, but you had to sit out. Or should have been winners, but ended up being losers because your stop was too tight, right? Whatever that breaking point is, that's what you got to figure out. And you're not going to figure it out until you'll probably have a sense of it in back testing, because there is a psychological aspect to back testing. But you won't really have a sense of it until there's live money on the line. Makeel, missed these live room sessions. Great to be back here. Awesome. Great to have you back. Glad you can join for the live stream. By the way, if you are watching on the live stream, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Show me some support. We've been doing this for a little bit now, just to kind of give you guys a glance inside. So if you can hit that like button and show some support, that's much appreciative. Also, we got a webinar coming up November 14th. Register now. Just go over to www.tier1trading.com and sign up. Free 1-week workshop starting in a few weeks. Now, what I wanted to talk about today is not the pattern, but I just wanted to bring that up because it was fresh on the mind from yesterday's Q&A session. But we have another pattern. So instead of a advanced pattern formation, as we call them, we have a classic pattern formation forming here as well. And this is going to be a head and shoulders. I'm on the New Zealand yen daily, or pound New Zealand, daily chart, by the way. And we have a head and shoulders pattern forming, which is a classic reversal pattern. So we have our move up right here. You can see the end of our extension and a little bit of retracement. That becomes our left shoulder. We've got an extension up, although it didn't make that much ground, and then a retracement back to the same level. And then we have a failed extension higher and a move back to the same level. So that same level that we talked about, this is called the neckline. The first extension is the left shoulder. The furthest extension to the top is the head. and the last extension is the right shoulder. Now, something that's interesting about this is something I did a lot of study on head and shoulders pattern, and in the stock market, I guess in the forex market too. I didn't study it in the forex market, but in the stock market, you want to look for a specific trend with volume. It's interesting. I didn't see anything that actually gives it an edge. I wasn't able to make those conclusions, but it's interesting to the fact that we have divergence throughout this entire pattern. That is typically a positive sign for this pattern. So you can see the head and shoulders pattern up here. We have divergence, so a series of lower highs being created on our RSI, especially considering the right shoulder in comparison to the left shoulder. So something to pay attention to, something that you may want to dig deeper into if you got that head and shoulder itch. But that is a positive sign here. So with the head and shoulders pattern, we are looking for the end of this directional move. We are looking for a move, a little bit of relief back in the opposite direction. And the question we want to ask ourselves is if we are going to break this neckline and expand downwards, where are we likely to go to? And there's a few things that we can do to kind of project targets. We can take a classic one-to-one measured move, an AB equals CD pattern. So from the head down to the neckline, copy and paste that, attach it to the shoulder. That will give us a one-to-one measured move, an AB equals CD pattern. We can take also from that same move, from the A to the B, a Fibonacci extension, and back up. You're going to see it's going to give me a 127, a little bit higher. I still have my stuff in there from yesterday. Can get rid of this. I don't need the 120. That was for the training purposes. We'll get that out of there. We can also take a Fibonacci inversion. So from the peak of the right shoulder back down into the neckline. See if there's any confluence there. We can take a Fibonacci. I know a lot of fibs, right? But I know you guys want them. Fibonacci retracement from our swing high to swing low right here. And then we can also take our volume profile from this last swing and see if there are any spikes in this area, right? So we look here on the daily. You can see we have a nice cluster around this area. We have a 50% retracement right in here. We have a 127 right in here, along with our AB equals CD pattern. We have a 1618, down there, 1618 inversion down there at the 50% as well. So a nice little zone here that you can use as a starting point for target projections. Now, if you want to go down to the lower time frame, right, maybe for an alternative reason for entry, we can dial in on this zone a little bit more, right? You can see this zone starts right here. It's right below a previous level of structure. So what I would do personally is I would increase that zone a little bit. I'm conservative as a trader, so I'd look to get a little bit higher with my potential targets and shoot for an area right here with target ones. So not a massive amount of room here, but again, this is the pound New Zealand. So you're looking for a move from basically about 195.64 down to about 193.87 for potential head and shoulders top. Any questions about this setup before I let you go? Live streamers, before I let you go. Live rumors, of course, we're going to be here for a while. But any questions about this setup before I let you go? Head and shoulders top here on pound New Zealand, daily / 4 hour time frame. And one last reminder, if you're coming in late, free 1-week trading workshop starting November 14th. Check it out. Sign up. Link is below. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Same time, same place for the live stream. Live rumors. Let me know if there's any place in particular you want to start. If not, we're going to go through the list.